Hiatus by L.A. Witt. Performed by Greg Boudreaux. Chapter 1. Nate. The Riverside Hotel, please. The cab driver punched it into his GPS, turned on the meter, and pulled away from the fairgrounds. The enormous parking lot had mostly cleared out, but there were still a few people making their way back to their cars, so I kept my baseball cap pulled over my eyes. As much as I adored my fans, and still couldn't believe they'd recognize me, never mind mob me, I had somewhere else I needed to be tonight. In my lap, I turned on my phone and texted my boyfriend Cameron. Leaving now, be there in 20. Then I turned the phone over and grinned in the darkness. Cam and his husband Theo had flown in this afternoon. I hadn't seen them in 3 weeks. Not since they had met me like this at another hotel in another city, and I'd been climbing the walls every night. Skyping, texting, and emailing only did so much to make up for the lack of physical contact while I was out on tour. For the last 7 months, I'd been on the road, only occasionally dropping back into L.A., and in between, seeing them whenever they could meet me. 7 months down, at least 5 to go, assuming more dates weren't added again. Technically, we had an open relationship, especially while I was out on the road. They had no problem with me hooking up with other guys. The same went for them. The only rules were we had to use condoms with other people and with each other if we'd been with anyone else. In practice, though, they were monogamous except for me, and despite the option being open, I hadn't touched anyone. My band thought it was hilarious. Now that we'd actually made it big and could act like the rock stars we'd always thought we were, I was practically celibate. Go figure. But I didn't want anyone else. For the last 4.5 years, the only men I had touched were the 2 who'd welcomed me into their bed and their marriage. I was one lucky bastard, too. They were sweet, generous, and both were dynamite between the sheets. Didn't hurt that they were gorgeous, too. They were different, and yet somehow complemented each other. Fair-skinned Cam, who rarely sunburned despite living in Los Angeles. Theo, who could tan just looking at a photo of a beach. They both worked out and looked the part, and even though they'd long ago left the world of high-powered investment banking, they still looked that part too. Theo kept his dark hair short and professional. Cam looked studious and serious, whether or not he had on his glasses. Small wonder they'd caught my eye that first night, since they'd both been wearing shirts and ties. I shivered. God, those 2 were the reason business attire had been invented. My phone buzzed. I turned it over, and Cam had written back, "Room 1128. See you soon." I put the phone down again and rolled my stiff shoulders. I was seriously tempted to ask him for a massage tonight, but damn it, he hadn't come here to work. He and Theo were here so we could fuck each other senseless, which would tide us over until the next tour stop where they could meet me. On the other hand, it wasn't like I ever had to twist his arm to give me a massage. He was the most tactile man I'd ever met. If he was touching, he was massaging, and when we were together, we were touching. So after a roll in the hay with him and Theo, it was a safe bet that whatever was left of me was getting massaged. Closing my eyes, I grinned again as a pleasant shiver ran through me and curled my toes inside my laced-up boots. This time tomorrow, I'd still be limping from the aggressive, bruising sex I always had with Theo, and feeling like $1,000,000 from his gentler, tactile husband. Almost exactly 20 minutes after we'd left the fairgrounds, the taxi stopped in front of the Riverside Hotel. Of course, it was one of those ritzy-looking hotels, with a fountain out front and a fleet of bellhops wearing black-brimmed caps and pressed jackets. I couldn't help laughing. Cam must have picked the place. That man had champagne and caviar taste like nobody else. After I'd paid the driver, I started toward the gilded lobby. I was dressed down to blend in, but of course that had the opposite effect here. Jeans, a baseball cap, and an old leather jacket made me stick out like a sore thumb. One of the bellhops held open the door for me. "Welcome to the Riverside Hotel." "Thanks." I met his gaze.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?